Williams. Quarterback, Southern California.
What's up, Bears fans? Back again on a Friday night, another edition of the Willis Twin Towers podcast. We got a special guest for you guys tonight. He's going to be co-producing for us. Let's go ahead and introduce him right now. Rock and roll, Tooch. Let's get yourself on the screen here, buddy.
Wow.
Hey, I don't know if you know why I said that just now.
Yeah,
Tooch.
great song, too.
Yeah. Oh, it's a great song.
Yeah.
If you remember right, there was a few months ago, we were talking about guitar solos on this show, and you were in the chat talking with us, and somebody had mentioned Beat It, and I was like, yeah, Eddie Van Halen played the guitar solo on that, and you came back and said, on Eat It, the Weird Al version, Rick Derringer played that. So I was like,
Yep.
Oh, I got to hit him with that rock and roll Toochie Coo now that he said that. So,
yeah, he was the guitar player in Edgar Winter, too.
Edgar Winter Group. Yep.
Yeah. Phenomenal guitar
Yeah,
player.
Great. Frankenstein, one of the all-time great songs.
Solo. Great solo.
Yeah. Exactly.
I played a Halloween every year, buddy. Every year.
Yeah, the drum solo, too. Great in that song.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, what
Anyways,
happened
guys,
to drum solos and guitar solos? They disappeared from.
Whatever happened to the cracked out, drugged out, drums flipping upside down from like Tommy Lee? Where'd all that stuff go? I will say this. I was just thinking about this the other day. Do you know how absolutely insane it is to be as messed up as those guys were? To be able to do that night in and night out and still sound as unbelievable as they did.
Yeah.
I don't even know how they were alive. I really don't, let alone be able to perform. It was insane.
Crazy. Yeah, I love Motley Crue.
Me too. And Tommy Lee is he's incredibly underrated as a drummer too. Like, it's widely believed that he is like the only member of that band who actually had like supreme talent. The rest of them, Nikki Sixx wrote some incredible lyrics and great songs, but Tommy Lee was the engine that carried that band. Like, really,
he was the musician of the group.
Yes. Yeah. Mick Mars, I mean, he did write some really catchy riffs, and which is what was part of their popularity. Fun fact for you, Tooch. I live in Terre Haute, Indiana. Mick Mars, his actual name is Robert Allen Deal, and he was born and raised in Terre Haute for the first 6 years of his life before he moved to California. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I know he was a guitar teacher out in LA. Mm-hmm. That was how they met him. But I love Mick Mars' guitar sound. Just the sound of his guitar was crunchy. Metal.
Yes. Yeah. I was just going to say crunchy. It's a really good word to describe it.
Well, and his solos, some of his solos are, they may not be the most difficult thing to play, but they are some of the most iconic and catchy solos. Like, there's not very many solos out there better than Home Sweet Home. It's absolutely incredible.
Great player.
That is a good song. Good song.
Yep.
Anyways, Hot Tub Time Machine, great movie too. It's in that movie. So, but anyways,
yes, it is.
Moving along, let's talk some football, guys.
Motley Lou. Sorry.
So there's a lot to kind of digest here. There was some stuff that went on today, some press conferences after the first day of rookie minicamp. We had Ben Johnson was on the podium. They had the second round picks were all at the podium, and so was Colston Loveland, who wasn't really much of a participant today because of the shoulder injury he's dealing with. But in any case, I just want to know before we get started here from both of you guys what your thoughts were from if you had a chance to see those press conferences and what your thoughts were from those guys and what's been said today about the first day of practice.
Go ahead, Tim. I haven't seen them.
So I think I finished them all. I will say this. I was really impressed with some. I will say the one that impressed me the most was Ozzy Trapillo. He is unbelievably intelligent, and you can just tell that his play is going to really that's going to come with his play. You're going to see it on the field, how smart he is. They've done nothing but talk about constantly this kid's intelligence on the field, his technique, and that's going to carry him. I really believe that. Now, I think he's going to be the left tackle. I'm really starting to believe it's going to happen based on, what we're hearing so far. But I will be honest, the one that I don't want to say he unimpressed me, but Luther Burden's was a little bit head scratching to me. I don't think he's very happy in Chicago. I really don't. I don't know if he's still got the holdover vibes from not being drafted in the first round or what it is, but he just does not strike me as somebody who's like really excited to play. He even made a comment. I don't know exactly what the context was in it, but it was almost like, I'll just do whatever for whoever I play for. It wasn't like, I'll do whatever this team asks me to do or anything. It was really, there it is. All the good numbers are gone. That was funny. That's not what I was
talking about, why he picked number 87.
I read that way ahead, but yeah, he just uninspiring, I guess is the right word. But ironically, you know who he reminds me of? Not just the play on the field, but the way he is in press conferences.
Yes, DJ Moore.
DJ Moore. He really is. It's ironic that the personalities and the play are so similar. To me though, if we get the best out of this kid, who are you going to defend between those two? Because they both can do the same thing. It's like, which one are you defending here? Which one are you, who do you think is going to be the decoy? Who do you think it's going to be tough with just those two? And that doesn't include a Dunze and Loveland and all these other Komet, all these other weapons that we have. Those two, I feel like, are going to put the most stress on defenses because they're going to be the two that they're most confused at who's doing what, just because they are so similar in how they play. And I don't think it's going to be so much of a scenario where we see one on the field and one on the bench. I think we're going to see a lot of sets with both of those guys on the field. Probably more often than not. I wouldn't be surprised if we have a lot of empty sets more often than we've ever had here because of the abundance of passing weapons that we have. But I don't know, Jeff. Tooch, we'll catch up with you since you didn't get to watch the interviews. But Jeff,
I can roll them. I think here if you want.
Sure, if you can pull them up, we can do it.
See if I can. Let's see.
They're all pretty long. They were like, one was like a 9-minute video, one was like a 5-minute video.
I think Colston's was the shortest. It was only like 5 minutes. I felt like, but Ben Johnson, I didn't feel like he had a whole lot to say today. Nothing more than what he normally does. I think he was getting kind of annoyed with Jason Leisure's first question. You could tell he was just like, "What are you even asking me?" But
is there one you want to see? Most of all, I can roll Ben Johnson, Loveland, Burden.
I'm trying to remember where Luther Burden's comment was that he made. How long is the Luther Burden part? It's probably about 5 or 7 minutes, right?
I've got all three of them on.
It's all in one video.
That's not that long. Let me see here. Let me see. Oh, is it going? Not yet, huh?
Nope, not yet.
All right, hold on. How about now? There it is.
Here it is. Yep. There's Shamar Turner.
We got no audio though.
Damn it.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Everybody will get a chance to watch them whenever they have time. But just to give you guys a little bit of a synopsis, Tim, you made some good points there. Ozzie was very impressive in his interview. Luther, I'll get to Luther Burden in a minute because I kind of disagree with you a little bit on that. But as far as I want to address Shamar Turner a little bit because he is like he's got to be the most fun draft pick to me so far that they've made from what you're seeing from him. And not just the most fun, but I really feel like this guy can and will be a difference maker because he just has that kind of energy that he's going to do whatever it takes to be the best he can be on the field.
I want to cut you off for just a half a second. I think they drafted this kid intentionally because he reminds me so much of his counterpart, the guy that he might be coming in here to eventually replace in guy we just picked up from Atlanta. Now I'm blanking. Grady Jarrett, like very, very similar personalities. Basically played the same position, although I think we're going to see a lot more edge rushing from Shamar Turner than what people think.
I think he's going to move all over the place.
Very similar players, very similar personalities.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I think he's going to move all up and down the line. I think he's going to be a very versatile player for the defense. He's going to be part of the rotation. I think that's the thing that's going to be, to me, that's going to be one of the biggest differences that we see and is noticeable between this defense with Dennis Allen and the past defense under Matt Eberflus. the front four, the alignment there, Dennis Allen is going to get very exotic with the way he does this. He's going to get exotic with his packages. They ran a lot of what they call this NASCAR package in New Orleans, where they had like faster guys on the field for third down. They had some smaller linebackers even sometimes. It's just he's going to deploy all kinds of different looks to get confusion along the offensive line, along from the quarterback. So I think we're going to see him move all up and down the line. He's going to be part of that. And like I said, I was really impressed with his interview and the way he talks and the way he's just got this fire to him. And I think he's going to be a very energetic and very contagious personality in the locker room. I think I agree with you, Tim, about Trapillo. I think he was a very impressive interview. He's and actually, matter of fact, there is a video. I don't know if you were able to get that too. Yep. There's a clip we got from practice of Ozzie Trapillo. I want to roll this real fast because look, this shit is impressive, guys. Him doing this drill, if you have.
Keep the post. Break.
In those feet. And honestly, to tell you the truth, being a guy with a former wrestling background, he's honestly in a pretty good stance. His butt's pretty low for being 6'8". You know, that's good. That's good, solid positioning, good footwork. I mean, this guy's an impressive kid so far. I think he's got the sky's the limit with him. I would not be shocked one bit if he was the day one starting left tackle at this point. I'm not sure I would have said that 2 weeks ago. So
they said he was left-handed stance snaps all minicamp
all day. Yeah.
So they got to be thinking he's going to compete at left tackle.
And he did mention in his interview that he spent more time after the college season on the left side because he was so used to playing on the right. He wanted to get his reps on the left to prepare himself for this opportunity. So he's been working really hard at it for several months now. And, the technique is all the same. It's just mirroring it to the left instead of the right. So if he can figure that out, watch out.
He's got Joe Cooney next to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I was watching on I don't know if you guys had a chance to watch. Greg was on with Swifty today. I watched it for a little bit, and he was talking about. He didn't name him, but I know the coach's name. He just couldn't remember during the show. But the name of the coach, he's working with former Patriots offensive line coach Dante Scarnecchia, apparently working on the left side. If you guys aren't familiar with Dante Scarnecchia, he's one of the best O-line coaches in like the last decade plus. I think he's retired now, but.
He played in the league too, I think, didn't he?
I think he did. Yes, in I'm going to say the 70s or something, or maybe the 60s.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but he's very, very good O-line coach for those Patriots dynasties over the years with Bill Belichick. Very good. I mean, very, very good coach. So he's been working with him apparently. I didn't know that until I heard that on the show today. He even mentioned in his press conference he's been working on the left side, trying to get prepared for that. So, like I said, you guys, I would not be surprised one bit at this point if he's the day one starter. He's been an impressive looking kid to this point.
Yeah, he sounds super intelligent too. He's very mature.
Boston College
for his age. Yeah, I think like we talked about this on Bare Their Souls. I mean, I think he's like better than Braxton Jones at this point. He anchors way better.
Oh, the anchor is. I mean, that's the biggest thing right there. I think you can make. There's a couple arguments you can make with this. I mean, Braxton Jones has been in the league for a long time and has probably learned some things that Ozzie's got to learn yet. But yes, when you compare the two anchors, it's like night and day. They're totally different.
Yep.
Braxton Jones has his strengths too. But I mean, if you ask me at this point, for sure, when they first started, Ozzie is ahead of where Braxton was as a fifth round rookie. Yes, but. I wouldn't be surprised, though, to see him jump up that depth chart, especially if, Braxton, it takes him a while to get healthy in practice. You know what I mean? So we'll have to wait and see. But I really like this kid so far. And the other thing, too, I almost forgot about, Tim. You were talking about Luther Burden. I don't know if I necessarily agree with you about him not looking like he's surprised or not looking like he's not surprised. What's the word I'm looking for? Inspired to be with the Bears, I guess, whatever. I don't know that's necessarily the case. I think there's definitely some bitterness about him about being drafted in the second round. You can see that.
Yeah.
You can see every time they ask him about it, you can see, and he even said today, he was like, I'm going to make every team that passed on me pay. So, that's, I don't know. Yeah. You didn't get to hear that yet, Tooch, but he's going to say that in the press conference.
He said it before too.
Yeah.
Right after the draft, he was like, everybody that passed on me is going to pay.
Yes. And it was almost that exact same thing. I can't remember who asked him the question, but like, it's something along the lines of how do you feel about being drafted in the second round kind of thing again. He was just like, I'm going to have to, I think the question was like, is it something that you can move on from and is in your past now, or is it something that's going to eat at you as you continue on? He's like, oh no, that'll never leave me. Those teams, I'm going to make them teams pay for passing on me. In essence, is what he said. So
that part of the draft, that was what really kind of it was the fork in the road for the Bears because they got their guy at 10. That was the guy they'd wanted. Ben Johnson wanted Colston Loveland to be the Laporta in his offense. They weren't able to trade up to get Ashton Genty. The price became outrageous because there were only so few blue chip players. So other teams were asking way too much, and it was smart of Poles not to take, not to give up more than just a first and a second for the first pick, for the first round pick. And then you got down to pick 38, and the Patriots take Travion Henderson, where all of us was pounding the table in anger that the Patriots sniped us. And then at that point, the Bears were like, well, all right. They took the full 7 minutes, and they said, look, Luther Burden, who they probably were thinking they would get at 41.
Yeah.
They were going to take Travion Henderson at 39 and then Burden at 41. Then they were set at tight end, running back, and wide receiver. They had that nice triumvirate of skill position players. But the Patriots, they got their revenge for us kicking their ass in the Super Bowl, and they took our guy. And then we traded 41 out and went backwards. And then after that, Poles never really could get his handle on the running back until they got to the 7th round, and Monangai was still there. Probably in a different draft, might have been drafted higher. Yeah, it's going to be a good pick. I think the kid's going to contribute this year. And then if he's a hedge against DeAndre Swift getting injured, definitely you'll have another skill set.
It's funny too because it's weird how things work sometimes. I think we're all in agreement for the most part, at least most of the fan base, that the Bears were likely targeting, and at least that's just our speculation anyways, that the Bears were likely targeting Henderson there at 39 if he were to not get picked by New England right before that. And if they do take him there and then they do take Burden at 41, now you wait until the 3rd round to pick again. They might not get Trapillo. They might not get Turner. They might not get any of those guys. So you're looking at a totally different player there and a totally different outcome. So, and you're probably not looking at Monangai in the 7th round there either. Now you've already got your running back in round 2. So it could have totally been a different scope of things. And now when you look at it, it's like, obviously it's still early. You can't really address a draft until like 3 years down the road or so. But really, it's a good looking draft, all things considered.
Yeah, those first 4 picks, I love. The first 4 picks, I love. I mean, Trapillo is a great pick. If he starts at left tackle this year, got him in the 2nd round, a starter
at 56. It's excellent value.
Yeah, excellent.
I mean, it's not as good as getting Braxton Jones to be a 4-year starter, 3-year starter out of the 5th round, but again, he's probably, if he starts right away, I think he's a better player than Braxton Jones will be. So we'll have to wait and see. But just, from what I'm seeing so far, I like it. And I think he's got a tremendous upside, man. I really do.
Yeah.
But, and Burden too. Burden, like I said, Tim, I don't necessarily think he's got that attitude of like, I don't know if I necessarily want to be here. I just want to make these people pay that pass. I mean, and whoever was
say that.
Wow.
It was JTK that made the comment that said he thought he just might be a bit of an introvert. I agree with that. I think that's probably just more so his personality than anything else.
Yeah.
Why he is the way he is in these pressers. But, I think he's going to be a tremendous player. And, Antoine Randall is fired up about him. And if anybody can get this guy to play at an elite level, it'll be Antoine Randall. And not only just that, but like you could hear in his presser today him talking about how excited he was to play in Ben Johnson's offense and play under Antoine Randall. He talked about how he's excited to play for Randall and how he thinks he's a good fit for him and all these things. So I don't know, Tim. I think it's going to work out well. I think they're a good fit, and I think he's going to enjoy his time here.
I'm not saying it wouldn't be. I wasn't saying anything like that. I wasn't very inspired, I guess would be the right words for how his press conference came off. He just, and some guys are just not that way, but we'll see. I don't, maybe he'll lighten up here in the next few months. I will say this. Everybody thought after the first season with Jamison Williams that he was going to end up being a total bust. I mean, it took 3 years for them to get any production out of him, but Randall L found a way to get some production out of that kid, and he is completely bought and sold on him. And Burden mentioned that in his press conference, how Jamison Williams has talked to him about Antoine Randall L and how much he will love him. So, and Ben Johnson. So that's good to hear, and that's good that he has somebody that he knows well, that has played under both of these guys extensively, for the last several years. So that will hopefully create a terrific relationship between the two. And we get a lot out of Luther Burden, because this is a second round wide receiver. Like, the wagon is attached to the horse as far as we are with these wide receivers. Like, they're not going anywhere anytime soon. Real quick, guys, can we please squash this Cole Kmet's getting traded, this DJ Moore is getting traded? It is not going to happen. Like, they didn't bring in Loveland to be Kmet's replacement. They brought him in to be his complement, not his replacement. They are not the same player. They never were. They never are going to be. And we've said this for how long? This is why Jeff and I, Tooch, talked about this before. I've been saying it for months now, that if they're going to take a tight end, it would be Loveland, because he's a better complement and a better fit for what they want to do than Tyler Warren would be. Yeah. He is another Cole Kmet, probably a little bit more on steroids than Cole Kmet, but nonetheless, it's the same position. This guy is not. DJ Moore is locked up for 5 more years. The guy has a huge contract left. He just signed an extension last offseason for the largest contract the Bears have ever handed out. He's not going anywhere. It's not going to happen. Luther Burden is not his replacement. That was just a scenario where he's the best player on the board. It's not even close. They took the full 7 minutes because they weren't even sure they wanted to do it, but they did, because it wouldn't make any sense not to. You take the talent when it's there. You take the best available player. So that's why he's here. And they're probably ecstatic that they got this guy where they did, because they had a first-round grade on him. And from all reports that we've heard, he was the number 1 receiver on their board. So why not take the guy? Yep. Why not have more weapons for Caleb Williams? I will say this. He has no excuses this year. It's all or nothing. Like, you're in or you're not. He's going to have to show that growth in year 2 that Justin did not show, because they've given him every opportunity. They've given him every weapon, everything for this thing to work. They gave him the best offensive mind and creative offensive mind in the NFL. They gave him one of the best defensive minds in the NFL to back him up on defense. They gave him running backs. They gave him a plethora of pass catching targets. It's time now to see what happens.
Plenty of talent. I know people were saying they're going to miss Keenan Allen, but really, to me, Colson Loveland is that replacement for Allen. They'll be the blanket kind of third down.
What did he really do? He didn't do that much last year. He was not that productive in the offense. He had a few.
It took a while to get going, and
exactly. He took a while to get going. When he finally did, he had a handful of good games. Had some injury.
I don't remember what his stats were. I had his stats written down for Allen. His first half of the season. It was more like around week 8 we started to see Keenan Allen becoming the favorite target. But there were lots of problems with the Bears offense last year. You had a lot of receivers like in the same area at the same time. Waldron didn't do a good job of spreading out these guys, or taking advantage of any mismatches that he could. And I think Ben Johnson will, be a lot better at that, getting the matchup.
I just think I don't think it was, they just didn't have a concise plan. They didn't concisely communicate with the players what the expectations were. And I don't think that's going to be a problem at all with this coaching staff. They're going to know exactly what they're supposed to do, when they're supposed to do it, where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to be there. It's going to be very, very detailed, and they're going to be very on it. I heard today at the practice, I was listening to, I think it was on 670, Chris Emma was on there, one of the reporters for the Bears. He was talking about how Eric Bieniemy and Dan Rochar were on guys already on day one. They were on their offensive linemen and their running backs from day one, coaching these guys hard. So, I mean, that's what I want to hear, and that's what I want to see. I want him to be coached hard, and I want him to get, understand what's going on. We didn't see enough of that last year. There was too much bitching and whining from the players even about it, that they weren't getting coached hard enough. And it's like they were making mistakes on the field to boot. So, you get that shit figured out. That's going to solve a lot of the problems that the talent – they didn't really have necessarily a talent deficiency last year. They had so many other issues that went into play with it. So I just feel like you get that shit figured out. You get that corrected. Now you start moving towards the talent actually being able to utilize itself in the proper ways. And again, Ben Johnson, this guy is he's a mad scientist. He's going to find a way to use these guys. He's got plenty of them. So, and I agree with you, Tooch. I think Colston Loveland's going to be part of that solution with Keenan Allen replacing Keenan Allen, but so is Luther Burden. He's going to play in the slot a ton. I don't think you're going to see as much as I don't think you're going to see as much of DJ and Rome in the slot now because of the fact that they got Luther Burden. But I do think that you're still going to see everybody get moved around a little bit. But those guys are your X and your Z now, I think, pretty much for the most part. So, I like what they've done. I think they had a really good. I agree with you, Tooch. Those first 4 picks were looking out from the outside. Did a really good job. Yes, I agree with you, and especially when you see these guys and hear these guys.
Next year, or this season coming up, we won't have any games like this, guys.
I hope not.
That's the Eberflus was to, hold teams to, under 10, 17 points, whatever. And then, we don't have to put up 30 points. But this year, should be a lot different. That game was so frustrating in many ways. But I'm glad. I want to put those kind of games, the Bears have had a penchant in the past for playing games like that, And with Ben Johnson, I'm glad to see. I think we're stepping in the right direction to, let's get a lot more offensive production. We're always in the bottom half of the league in offense. Defense is always fairly good, whatnot, smash mouth football. But I think we can do a lot better on offense and maybe blend a little smash mouth with some high octane offense.
Yeah. And I think they will. I think that's a big thing too. And I realize that everybody wanted, a lot of people still want them to bring in another running back, and they want them to address the running back room more.
Yeah.
But I think that they're just based on the improvement from the offensive line, the upgrades on the offensive line, Ben Johnson's scheme, and better coaching in general. I think that the running game is going to be much, much better than it has been in the last couple of years. And they're actually going to have an identity in the run game now, I think. And Monangai is going to be a part of that. I think he's going to be a big part of that rotation. I think he's going to – I said this on Bare Their Souls with you guys last week. I think he's going to carve himself out a nice little role on third down, mostly because he's a good pass protector. But I think he's going to be if he becomes a reliable – yeah, and I think if he becomes a reliable pass catcher, why not use him a lot on third down, especially if Roschon can't stay healthy?
Did you like the Monangai pick, Tim?
I did. So I think what happened in that scenario, which Tooch, you've got to like him because he's probably got the second best contact balance of any running back in this draft outside of Genty.
Exactly.
So,
he's a miniature Genty.
He kind of is. Yeah. He kind of is without the speed, probably. He's probably
he's got speed, though.
He does, but I wouldn't say anywhere close to what Genty can do.
Yep, or Travion.
Speaking of real quick, Tim, before I continue, just an off point here. You're going to love next year when he comes into the draft, Tooch, Jeremiah Love. That dude has some contact balance. He is big.
Unbelievable.
Fast.
Yes.
I'm already looking at them. I'm hoping the Bears get him next year.
He's probably going to go in the first round because running backs like that don't come every year. Where they're built like that, they can run like that, and they have contact balance. He has
improved tremendously since freshman year at Notre Dame.
Oh man, I was betting on him to score a touchdown almost every week last season.
That touchdown run he had against Penn State in the playoff game was unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it in college football.
Next year you'll hear me saying the Bears have got to draft Jeremiah Love.
I'm going to say it with you. I'm going to be right there with you next year for sure.
Yep.
Hey, next year will be the year to take the first round running back for sure. They'll have no reason not to at that point. So I do think that would have been I know you loved him, but I think it would have been a little unwise to move up and get him like that. And I think you feel the same way to a point. If
they were talking, we gave him 10 and 41. I would have been like, okay, let's do it.
I would have done that. I would have been more willing to do that than wanting another first round pick, which is what it sounds like they wanted. So
if they were talking 10, 41, 72 and a pick next year, I would have been like, go screw yourself. But
exactly.
For a minimal cost, it would have been worth it. But like I said, there were so few blue chips, and nobody was willing to give up their spot to take one of them. The Patriots wanted Will Campbell. The Browns wanted Abdul Carter. But I think the Browns got a steal in Shedeur.
They probably did.
I would not be surprised if he's the starting quarterback week 1.
It wouldn't surprise me either. I don't know. I got my opinions on that whole situation, but we'll save that for another day.
I did think it was wild.
What round was it?
4th.
No, it was later than that, wasn't it?
5th round. They drafted him.
Was it the 5th? I thought it was like in the middle of the 4th round.
Listen, they took Dylan Gabriel in the 4th round, and then they took Shedeur in the 5th round. It's just like to turn around and do that. That's what makes me. I mean, what are they going to do? I mean, because
that's an owner's pick there. That's the owner saying take him.
Yep. Yeah. I think. I mean, that's a steal, really, if he becomes the starter. You're talking like a Tom Brady in the 6th round type steal, Braxton Jones in the 5th type steal.
Yeah.
Any probably quarterback that comes on, even after day 2, and especially after day 2, but even on day 2, you get a guy that starts at quarterback on day 2, you did pretty well for yourself.
I forgot, where did Tyler Shuck land? Was he with the Giants? Or?
He is with he is
the Saints.
Actually, yes,
the Saints. They line with the Saints, right?
Yeah,
the Saints. Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
They took him at pick 40, right? Right before the Bears.
Okay.
Went.
Took him right. Yeah.
I think he went like 49 or something, but still, I mean,
I believe.
Yeah, they're going to take. Yeah, I think he could very well start. That wouldn't surprise me either. With their situation, because Derek Carr's probably not going to play.
No.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Was Colson Loveland's shoulder? Were you guys at all or no?
Well, not really. I mean, if it's a lingering thing, so I'll say this: so if they get into, because they're making it sound right now like he's not that far off from being healthy, like he's within. I'll say this: if we get into training camp, even in OTAs, I won't be necessarily that concerned about it. But if they get into training camp and he's not ready to go full go for training camp, I'll be a bit concerned. Because that's, you just draft this guy in the 1st round at 10th overall. You want him to contribute right away and be ready to contribute right away. So get him on the field as quickly as possible. I actually
disagree with you a little bit there. I don't think it's like a huge deal at all, even if he has to miss some at camp, because there's no reason to rush him into this. You have plenty of weapons on offense. You have your starting tight end already, and the guy you've been using for years. I know he's an additional weapon and he can do things that Kmet can't do. But I would feel a lot better with them not pushing him out there if he's not healthy than the opposite. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. This isn't like you don't have your left tackle because he's hurt and not getting any camp. This is a little bit different of a situation, in my opinion. So I agree with you. You took him at pick number 10. You want him to have production. You want him to have it early. You want to get him invested in the offense. But at the same time, you don't need him to be out there right now. I think it's better for him to get his rest and get healthy.
I see what you're saying, Tim, but also we got to remember he plays the tight end position, and that position is notoriously difficult to get going early as an early player to start having success. It usually takes like year 2, year 3 for guys in that position. Now, it's a little bit different as a receiving tight end. Like a guy like Laporta was successful right away with Ben Johnson, for instance. So, I mean, maybe you could see that with Colson Loveland. But again, though, it's like you want these guys to be available to start building the chemistry and learning, the timing and all those things right away, so that when the season comes around, they're ready to go. Especially with training camp, you want to be able to hit. You want to see that he can hit and he can make contact and he'll be okay and stuff. So that's why I say I want him to be healthy, fully healthy in training camp, because if he's not, I will be a little bit concerned about his start to the season. What do you think, though, Tooch? Would you be concerned at all about his shoulder?
I don't know. It's starting to be a thought, that I would hate for something to happen to our, number one guy.
Well, it always sucks
more
seeing
pick.
one of your draft picks sitting on the sideline during rookie minicamp. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's so I know what you're saying.
Totally. That's it.
And he was the first pick.
Yep. Yeah. There were a couple other things I had for you guys, actually. As you know, the Caleb, where is it here? Caleb Williams retweeted, the Pope. Leo the 14th. I think he posted Dub Pope.
He did.
later.
Yes, he did say Dub Pope. Yeah.
And then, of course, we had the blue and orange smoke. People went nuts with this
That's hilarious.
on social media. And
White Sox fan too.
Right. There's
I haven't seen that yet.
Hey, they're finally going to bring up a guy that everybody's been wanting them to bring up tomorrow, though. So at least there's that.
We have we're 1-0 versus Green Bay and Pope. So.
Oh, there you go.
That's classic. Have you seen that little video where it's him and they're translating what he's saying and it's like Green Bay? Oh, that's so funny.
There's a point here in the chat that I want to bring up from Flex because I totally agree with you, Flex. He says he's most interested in this left tackle battle. Braxton might not be healthy right away. Karan is raw. He's a project. The Bulls took him round 3, and Ozzy's coming in from the second round. 3 men enter, 2 men swing. I'll say this, Flex. I think in training camp, that's where every single eye is going to be as far as the fan base, as far as everybody. We're going to be looking at that left tackle, battle because especially if Braxton is healthy by then, which he might be by training camp. So if he is, and they're all 3 battling that spot out in training camp, it's going to be very, very, very must-see TV to be, for lack of better wording. So I'll have my eyes on it too, Flex. I totally agree with you.
Now, back a while, Bare Their Souls, we had Roy from Three Kings of the Midway. And recently he posted on X that he was watching Ozzy Trapillo film, but he got bored because he was tired of Ozzy stonewalling every pass rusher.
That's what everybody says that watches.
Greg said that today on Swifty's show too, that it was almost boring watching his film because he was so good.
Yeah, he is a technician, man. I like, I didn't watch enough of him beforehand. I read and people were just like dissing him, just like, he's lumbering, he's too big and slow. But man, whoever wrote those capsules didn't watch the tape because as the 3 of us agree, we saw a technician, and I'm excited. It's been a long time since the Bears have had a decent, solid left tackle. We had Braxton Jones for 4 years and Charles Leno for many years. And those guys were just kind of middle of the road.
They were okay.
Replacement level. Webb. Yeah. I mean, we tried so hard, I mean, I struggle to think of when we had a good left tackle back.
Jimbo.
For me, it was Jimbo Covert.
Tate.
John Tate was the one I was going to mention.
Was pretty good.
Yep.
That's about it.
And came in as a right tackle. We had to move him to the left because of need. I remember we drafted Troy Ozine in the second round 1 year way back to be a left tackle. He flamed out. Mark Colombo, he was injured.
Didn't we draft Gabe Karimi to be a left tackle too? And he was
he was injured.
Or what did I say? Yeah, Karimi. Yeah,
yep, Karimi and Chris Williams. So we of the last 3 or 4 draft picks at left tackle have all flamed out or been injured.
Yeah.
So I mean, the Ozzy pick has me really excited. And like I said, I think we're gonna see that he's gonna be stonewalling pass rushers better than the other 2 guys.
One thing I think is really noticeable about him that I think is different from what we've seen. And I've talked about this in the past too. I think that the play strength is so noticeable with him. And I know in the past with this regime, they've been very focused on offensive linemen who move well, the athleticism. And this guy's a pretty good athlete. We just showed him moving, doing that football drill in the practice, but just the play strength. I mean, the guy literally can redirect rushers with one arm. He stick one arm out there and they can't move. It's crazy. It's crazy how he's able to do it. And for a big man of his size, I really feel like there's a lot of potential there. And I see a lot of you guys in the chat with mixed reviews about the other guys at left tackle between Braxton and Karan and Trapillo. Melamaster says here that Trapillo and Loveland outside next to him help pass block and set the edge for Swift to get outside. Loveland get to second level and block linebackers. Yes, I think he will. They'll use him to block. I think a lot of 2 tight end sets. He'll get a chance to block too. But I mean, Komet's going to be in there a lot too. We got to remember that the guy's a very good blocking tight end. So
is he though? Well, is he really Komet really that good?
He has been. He has been. Let's say that he has been a very good blocker.
I was watching last season a couple times where he was like running around like he was all aggro, and he was missing.
What was happening last year.
Missing guys. He's like firing.
I don't think he even knew what his assignment was at the time.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say, because the offense was not coordinated.
No.
If you watch, what was that Quarterback School with JT O'Sullivan? You guys ever watch that? He was always.
I watched more of Tim Jenkins. Yes,
right. He was like, why is this guy here? He's not supposed to be here. Like, why are these guys all grouped in one area? This guy should be the Keenan Allen has no get off. Roma Dunze should be the X running the deep route. It just was chaos under Waldron. So I mean, the Bears players were fatigued with Eberflus and Waldron. They staged their own mutiny. And if you went back, I had it somewhere, but did you guys read the Esquire article with Caleb Williams?
I've only heard bits and pieces.
I heard parts of it. I didn't read it.
Yeah, he was talking about how that the game in Washington, D.C., all of the players were pissed off. And same with the game against the Lions, where Eberflus didn't take a timeout. Yeah. Again. I said he quoted us saying how Eberflus handled it at that time for that game was, I think, one of the things that throughout the locker room people talked about and were annoyed by, said Williams in the Esquire article. And Williams said he himself grew increasingly frustrated down the stretch of the Bears' 5-12 season, and increasingly it motivated him to never have a season like that again. So,
well, that's a good thing.
Well, I mean, I think he's saying the same thing that we felt as fans last year after that game. It's like, and because the problem with the whole thing was like, look, if you after the game you say, we fucked up, we should have had this played right. Yes, Stevenson was running off the field. I don't know what he was doing there. We're going to discipline him in house for that. Yes, we shouldn't have allowed that 15-yard completion to the sideline right before the play that helped set it up. If we'd have stopped that, we probably would have been in better position. But he just doubled down. Oh, that play didn't fucking matter. That didn't matter at all. It had nothing to do with why we didn't convert on that play. And it's like, dude, everybody on earth knew that play was a huge contributing factor to why you lost that football game, except for you. You just refused to acknowledge it. You pissed off your players. You pissed off the fan base. You pissed off the media. You pissed off people that aren't even Bears fans saying that stuff. So it's like
Dan Quinn said he couldn't believe it was there.
Yeah.
He couldn't believe the play was there.
I know. And it's like, to me, it's like, look, everybody was pretty much ready to jump ship from Flus as it was. But at that point, he literally jumped from the diving board headfirst into an empty pool when he said that. It's like, dude, you're gone now. You have no choice. I just don't understand how it got to that point, how he lost, how he got so I don't even know what the word I'm looking for. How you could be so dense that you don't see that being a problem. You know what I mean? So the team obviously lost him, and that's a good firsthand account of basically what we were all seeing last year. And it's unfortunate. I don't think we're going to see that this year. I think we're going to see a lot different attitude and a lot different, like I said to you guys before, that they're going to be on the details with this staff. They're going to be on guys.
They're pros. They're professionals.
Be totally different.
We have a professional coaching staff now.
Yes.
Last 3 years, or 2.5 years, we had amateur hour.
I mean, look at all this. The first hires that Flus made, there were mostly people he knew. All the defensive staff was guys he knew. Johnson didn't do that at all. He brought in 2 guys from that he worked with in the past.
Yep. Do you guys think Eberflus was really Poles'
No.
hire? I don't either.
Greg is convinced that he's Bill Polian's guy.
Yeah.
I think he probably was. He was probably the guy. I mean, I'm sure that he was the guy that he really pushed for the McCaskies to take him. And when it came to as soon as Poles got hired, he was probably out of the picture. But at that point it was, hey, Ryan, I know you want to make your own coach. I promise your wagon won't be hitched to this guy, but I really think you should hire this guy for now and stick with the guy who's got what we think has some experience and can get us through this part, of our schedule or the next couple of years while you're building the roster. He was the scapegoat.
Yeah,
he was the scapegoat from the beginning.
I really wonder if Poles wanted him gone before last season when we bring.
I don't think he did.
A new quarterback and all that.
I don't think he did, and only because I think he's had his eyes on Ben Johnson for 3 years.
Right.
I think this is the guy he's wanted for a long time. He knew he wasn't going to be available last year, so it was, let's just stick with Flus. Hey, he might get us an even better draft pick because he sucks so bad. We'll see what happens. But it got to the point where he had completely lost that locker room and that team.
Oh, yeah.
You had to cut ties. You couldn't hold on anymore.
Yep. I think there had to be some conversation, though. Don't you think maybe Poles reached out to Ben Johnson's agent, said, hey, but Ben wants to stick around for.
I'm sure he did, and that's when he probably got the response of, hey, I'm not ready this year, because he talked about that.
Or somebody Poles talked to a friend of a friend of a friend who knows Johnson, who through the grapevine is like, hey, I heard the Bears like what they see from you. They might be interested in you if you become something was going on somewhere like that.
And I will say the Lions had a chance to win it all last season. He wanted to stick
I'm sure
around.
He did. Yeah, I'm sure he did think so. But and then again, though, it's like he probably wanted to make sure that he was ready for the opportunity too. And last year he probably looked at the Bears situation and some of the other ones and was like, I'm not sure that they're ready right now if this is a good spot to walk into. So I think that's part of it. But also, I will say, what you guys were talking about with Eberflus, I think there was a couple factors at play there. I do think that Poles liked him. I don't think Poles was against hiring him. He obviously, had the last say in that. But I do think there was some, I don't know if the word is persuasion there, but I'm sure there was some influence there from ownership, from Bill Polian. The agents is the big thing. And McFact is the one who mentioned it in the comments there. I think the agents, both being Trace Armstrong, being the mutual agent there, had a lot to do with the fact that
absolutely.
Right. Did you see my Bears state of affairs on Trace Armstrong?
Yes.
Yeah. He's like Littlefinger plotting. I've got another guy for you.
Yep.
He sabotaged us.
Yep. And I think it's a good thing that they hired Ben Johnson, who does not share an agent with these guys. So.
I think Trace Armstrong really had a foothold on this organization for a while there. Maybe he wasn't in control, but they were hiring his guys and only his guys, like for everything.
He definitely had the ear of Bears upper management.
Yeah, he did. Yep.
I want to ask you guys, because the chat room is talking about this, about like whether or not Poles is actually really good at his job.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I, all three of us, have said that the first 4 draft picks of Poles were fantastic.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if those were Ben Johnson telling him to draft these guys, and Dennis Allen. You know what I'm saying? He's just like, okay, yeah, let's draft them.
There was a point, I think it was after after night 1, they were doing their press conferences, and I believe Poles said something along the lines of, there were a handful of guys that Ben really liked in the first round that he was clamoring for, in essence. And so I absolutely think he had huge influence in the 3 offensive players that were drafted. I mean, think about it. I mean, if you just look at Trapillo is a prime example of this. And we just talked about this.
I think that is a Ryan Poles guy through and through. That's a BC guy. There's connection there. That's his guy.
Yes, but I think Ben Johnson, as a player, from a player's perspective, I think Ben Johnson had a lot to do with it because, like I said, look at it from this perspective. Again, in the past, they've drafted offensive linemen who are very athletic, and they've always valued offensive tackles with length. Trapillo has 33-inch arms. Darnell Wright has 33-inch arms too, but he's on the right side. It's a little bit different.
True.
But still, it's like the minimal threshold that you want. And if you're going to draft a guy in the second round that you may want to start at some point in time, you expect to start at some point in time, you're probably going to value that length. Ben Johnson probably came in and said, first of all, you watch this guy's tape, and I don't think length is going to be an issue with him because you don't see it on tape from him being a problem for him. But again, though, he's probably had some influence there. Like, look, I mean, I've worked with Taylor Decker. I've worked with Penny Sewell. I know what good tackle play looks like. I can see this guy's on this guy's tape. I think he can get the job done for us because, again, you don't bring a guy in unless he fits with what your offense is trying to do anyway. So he obviously had a big part of it, but I do think he had more of an influence in this particular draft on some of these players than they would have in past drafts, because like you just said, and like I just said, the profile I think is a little bit different now.
I think both you guys are right. I think that Poles went into this draft. He had to get Ozzie Trapillo. That was his guy. He was going to get him no matter what.
Yeah.
Whether it was at 41 or 56.
Well, because some people thought they reached to get him where they did, even so.
Right. And looking back, I don't think it was a reach.
I don't either.
Just right.
Any of the offensive line masterminds that I see talking about this guy, anybody who's like, I follow a lot of offensive line, either former players or people who work with players and stuff like that on Twitter. Yeah. Everybody I see talking about this guy thinks he's going to be a good player. I think it was Brandon Thorne, who's one of the big guys on X that talks offensive line play. He said he thought he was the most offensive. He was the most pro-ready offensive lineman in the draft, and that says something to me. So, you know. Yeah.
It's
you
a
can
kid
kind of see it in practice.
It's a kid that was groomed by professionals to play the position of offensive lineman. Mm-hmm. It was his father who played in the NFL. Yep. Probably had the kid starting early with, offensive line drills, footwork, all that stuff. Went to college at Boston College, played under Bill O'Brien, who's famous for developing offensive lines. And then now he's here. He's been groomed since he was a boy to play tackle. So that's why a lot of these folks say, well, look at the technique, look at the technical effort this kid puts into his craft, and I think that's why a lot of us are high in saying he would be a starter over Braxton Jones. I don't think that's unreasonable. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. I know right now we're saying that Braxton Jones is his job to lose. But I'm not so sure. I mean, Braxton Jones coming off a devastating injury. They had to take a left tackle. I think we talked about this pre-draft about how, we got to get a guy like Kelvin Banks or Josh Simmons or whatever. And I was like, well, you can get tackles to hedge against Braxton Jones's injury in the later rounds, the second round for sure. There were players like Ursary and Donovan Jackson. Well, Jackson went in the first round, though. So second round, Trapillo and other guys were there. They were going to be there, but Trapillo is the guy that they wanted. They were going to get him somehow. If they took Travion Henderson and Luther Burden and then all they had was 72, I guarantee you he would have traded up to 56 or somewhere around there to get Trapillo.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
Well, he did say something along the lines of, I think Paul said it. It was something along the lines of, when they took him at 56, maybe they could have. They didn't know that if they could get him with the next pick at 62 is I think what he said, and that there was only 6 picks in between there, or 5 picks. So that should tell you that they thought his value was somewhere in that range. Maybe he wasn't the very top player on their board, but he's probably close enough to take him. And if you're worried about not getting him with your next picks too, so. I mean, there's something to say there. I see that there's a chatter in here is talking about Josh Connerly.
Josh Kelly, that was the name.
And Donovan Jackson as well, how he would have liked to see them picked at 10. They both went in the 20s, though. So I'm not sure the value. Don't get me wrong, Melon Smasher. I love both those players. I think Josh Connerly and Donovan Jackson are both going to be really good players. I just don't think the value is there for them at 10. Like I said, they both went in the 20s. And I think Connerly went like 28th or something, or 29th. So they were both first-round players, but bottom half of the first-round players, just based on what the league was telling us, what the league has, drafted them by. So I like the players too, and they're probably better. They're obviously better prospects than Trapillo, who went 56th. But again, that was who was there. That's how the draft fell for them. We talk about this all the time. Sometimes that's just how the draft falls. Maybe as fans, we don't necessarily always love the picks they make. And based on what we see, we might have taken somebody different, but we're not in their room. We don't know what their board looks like. We don't know what their scouts are telling them. We don't know the character. We don't know how the football player is behind closed doors. We don't know what their coaches say about them, what their teammates say about them. That's stuff that scouts know. I mean, there are reports that come out sometimes that give you a little bit of information like that. But for the most part, I try to trust. I mean, I can't say I trust everything the Bears always do with this stuff. But that being said, I feel like Ryan Poles has done a pretty good job in the draft. I mean, there's going to be some people who disagree with that. But he's had some pretty good hits. Velus Jones is a huge whiff in the third round, but he's had some good hits. I mean, Kyler Gordon was his very first pick. He's already been extended. So you got to say that was, he did pretty well there. And there's some other good picks he's had too. Braxton Jones, a 3-year starter out of the 5th round. He's made good picks. So you can't say they're all bad. He's made bad moves. Every GM does. They all do. Chase Claypool was a terrible move. Every GM makes bad moves. It happens, guys. The Steelers, all they do is draft receivers that have rap sheets, and then they trade them for 2nd and 3rd round picks later on. So it's like, this is just what teams do sometimes, and it bites them in the ass sometimes, and other times it works out. So, we'll see. Again, you got to give it 2 to 3 years to really see how this draft class turns out, but I'm optimistic about it myself. Flex says that Karan playing in the Ivy League and beating up on future lawyers and doctors is nowhere near pro football. Maybe he takes a leap in year 2. I'm interested in his progress. He's a physical freak. I agree with you, Flex. To me, Karan is like he's the really interesting one here. He's kind of I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but it's interesting because he did play when he played last year. He didn't look real good for the most part. And there's a lot of people that say he can't play because of how poorly he played when he was on the field in some of those games. But there were also times where he looked pretty damn good, and you could see why they took him in the 3rd round and what those, how his traits look on the field and how the upside could really look as he improves. So there's some good there. I'll be interested to see that too, because I agree with you, Flex. He's a physical freak. This guy's got like almost 36-inch arms, and he moves like a gazelle for an offensive lineman. He's very strong. But again, he played in the Ivy League, just like you said. He's played at lower level competition. He barely practiced last year before he finally got on the field. He missed all of camp. That's not good for an offensive lineman. I want to give this kid a chance. I'm not going to throw him under the bus yet and say he's dead to the water. He's never going to be any good. There were moments last year that made you question some things, absolutely. But I do think there is still a chance there with him. And again, Dan Rochar being the new offensive line coach is different than what they had before. This guy's had a history of success coaching guys up. We'll see what happens. I think they've got a good situation here. Maybe it's not what everybody wanted to see at left tackle, but they've got upside, and I think they can coach some of these guys that play pretty well.
I agree.
Sorry, and then I started choking.
I did have some maybe your thoughts on the Bears rookie jersey numbers.
Oh, that reminds me. Yes, Tooch. Yep. So I did some research on this. I wanted to talk to you guys about this a little bit. So if you guys watched, I know you didn't see the interviews yet, Tooch, but during the press conference, somebody asked Luther Burden why he picked number 87. And he said it's because all the good numbers were gone. So it's pretty much all he was left with.
I guess there was no early double-digit numbers, like any teens left or any single digits left.
Surprise me. But there's a lot of people saying that they don't know that they like the number 87. I think it's kind of a dud number for them. But
yeah, kind of. Receivers don't wear those 80s anymore. They just don't.
But I was just going to say, look, I'm going to give you guys a list of some of these guys some of the guys in history who've worn the number 87, who are very good players. And then I want you guys to tell me what you think about it. So, first of all, guy who played for the Bears, Tom Waddle, wore the number 87. He's currently with ESPN 1000's good radio personality.
But
here's the receivers.
Too.
I do too. I love him. So here's the receivers that have worn 87. Reggie Wayne, Hall of Famer. Dwight Clark played for the San Francisco 49ers. He's a guy who caught that ball in the Super Bowl from Joe Montana that won the game. Back in the end zone. Keenan McCardell, good player. Joe Horn, good player. Kevin Dyson got tackled at the half yard line of the Super Bowl and would have won that game.
I still think he scored.
He didn't score. He was like half yard short.
He scored.
Musu Muhammad wore 87.
Bears.
Eddie Kennison. Loved Eddie Kennison when I was growing up. Played for the Chiefs number 87.
He played for the Bears too.
He did for a little bit. Yes, he did. Eric Decker, Lavernios Coles. Jordy Nelson played for Packers, unfortunately. And then just a couple of tight ends who will be surefire Hall of Famers, these two, Gronk and Travis Kelce. And then Brent Selleck also wore 87 for the Eagles. So just some players who wore that number who were damn good players. So I would not be surprised to see. And I actually kind of like 87. I think it's different. He can carve a niche with that number with the Bears. Maybe get that number retired.
He'll have a different number next year. Guarantee he's getting a different number next year.
He could, but I don't think he would necessarily want to do that. I mean, I personally wouldn't want to buy
do it all the time.
Jerseys. I think I'm going to wear.
Eddie Jackson jumped on the opportunity to take his old number.
Yeah, if I was a player, I wouldn't change numbers just because of all the fans who'd already purchased the
That's right.
Jalen
Johnson gets a contract extension. He's like, man, screw you guys. I'm taking number one. It's like, Oh, okay.
Oh, Ricky Pohl, Minister Charles. I almost forgot about Ricky Pohl. Yeah. Good
Great
player.
Yep.
Yes. So a lot of good guys that wore 87. I didn't think there was anything wrong with that. There were some other interesting numbers too. I think 84 for Loveland is a perfect fit. I mean, 84 is just such a great number for a receiver. Any kind of receiver who's going to catch the football. I love that number.
Pull a Randy Moss.
75 on Trapillo gives me Kyle Long vibes. He kind of looks like Kyle Long.
Yep. Good number choice.
Yes.
Yep. Let me get that back up there. Is that Bears? Okay, here we go. Yeah. 84 for Loveland. Good tight end number.
Yes.
Yep.
95 for Turner. I like that. That's a good D-line number too.
Richard Dent.
Yes. Richard Dent. I almost forgot about that.
Yep.
And then Monunga is going to be wearing 25. That's a good running back number.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think so too. I saw some people that said they don't necessarily like it. They were talking about some other Bears players that. It was a post on Twitter I saw talking about Bears players. Bears running backs have worn that number. It was like Treston Abner and a couple other guys like that. So I can see maybe not liking that so much, but I don't think it's a bad number. I think it looks pretty good. And maybe, again, guy can carve himself out his own little niche with it.
The Bears, being one of the oldest franchise, have many retired numbers.
Yes,
so let me get your guys' thought on unretiring some numbers. You don't like the idea?
For the Bears. So let me just give you my quick thoughts on this because so first of all, for you guys who don't know, Abdul Carter got drafted by the Giants. He was trying to wear Lawrence Taylor's number, and then he wanted to wear Chris Sims' number. And Lawrence Taylor said no right away, which I don't know why he would want to wear Lawrence Taylor's number anyways, or Chris Sims' number for that matter. But Chris Sims was going to let him wear it. And then Chris Sims' family said, no, that number's retired. It's going to stay retired. Nobody needs to wear it. He can choose his own number. And then he chose 51, which is a fucking awesome number anyways. But Dick Butkus. Yep. But anyways, so my point with this whole thing is I don't like it. I don't like the idea of new players coming in thinking they should wear retired players' jersey numbers. They're honored for a reason. They're players who are such instrumental pieces to their teams, such great players or such transcendent players for their teams, whatever the case may be, that their team chose to retire their number. Why would you want to wear it? Create your own legacy. It doesn't make sense to me. So the Bears, I see what you're saying about the Bears unretiring some numbers.
Like if it was before 1950.
Right. I guess
they're going to run out of numbers eventually if they retire every number. They've been around for 100 years.
I think if it's any player before like 1950 or whatever, like you said, that's not in the Hall of Fame, you should probably unretire that number. Yeah. Because it's a modern day of football is different now. Hall of Fame players are Hall of Fame players. But I think that I see what you're saying with that. I just, because they have so many of them, but for the most part, I don't like the idea of players taking retired players' numbers. It bothers me.
It would be, that was the discussion. It was floated out there that, if the player, their number's retired and they played, in like, the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s, that teams could or should unretire the number to let, more players wear the jersey numbers that they really want for the team,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody's talking about, I think it's Shorty. I just missed it. Was talking about the number 3 being retired. Wasn't that like George Hallis's number or something though? Isn't that why it's retired? Because he's talking about the stats.
Hallis was 7.
7. Okay.
7. 3 was I want to say like Sid Luck. No, Sid Luckman was 42.
I don't think it was Luckman. He was double digit.
Luckman was 42. Yep. Third Bears retired numbers. I'd have to go and look it up. I can't remember who 3 was.
I'm gonna have to look up Bears retired number 3. If you guys know in the chat, let us know. But we're getting kind of low on time here. We're already going over a little bit. So let us know if you guys have any quick questions for Bronco Nagurski.
Yep.
He's a legendary player.
Yeah, they're not going to unretire Bronco Nagurski's number.
Yeah. So I'm surprised I didn't know that's who number 3 was. But still, I mean, just because of that, I don't think you can unretire a guy like Bronco Nagurski. I mean, especially because he was not. I mean, he was just a big time player in his time period, but also in college he was a stud. And I know that doesn't matter in the NFL, but still he was a big time famous player for decades and decades.
They have awards named after him.
Exactly. We still know who the guy is to this day, and he didn't have stats back then, so that should tell you something in and of itself, But in any case, like I said, I personally I don't like the idea of players taking other retired numbers. I
They
mean,
should
what do you guys
retire
think?
George Galanic's jersey just because.
Our
It
grandpa's
might
buddy.
be retired for all we know. I have no idea.
I don't think it is, but anyways, if you guys, like I said, if you guys have any last minute questions for us here, go ahead and throw them in the chat. Otherwise, we'll kind of give you our final thoughts before we get out of here and prepare for next week.
How about real quick before we get out of here, the Bears undrafted free agents. There's some interesting players in there.
Yeah.
One was the Oregon safety Tysheem Johnson,
Yes,
who a lot of people didn't get drafted. He's got a shot here. I mean, like you
Greg
said,
loves him.
yeah,
I was just going to say
safety.
that. Greg's very
Safety's,
high on him.
we don't have a lot of guys under contract for next year, so this is a kid who, if he's whether it's practice squad or active roster, is a guy who could stick around. Then there's that running back, Deion Hankins.
Yeah,
He's a big. It was a El Paso, Texas high school legend. He's big, like 6 foot 225. Bruiser. If he makes a showing, I could see him sticking around. And then the big big defensive end from California. Say it was Xavier Carlton, I think his name is.
Oh yeah. I can't remember for sure.
He's
that sounds right.
He's like 6'4", 6'5", 275.
He was a star on the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air television show.
He fits the Dennis Allen prototype for defensive end. That big, big size defensive end. But are you guys still thinking that the Bears need to have a speed rusher still somewhere? I know we have what's that guy's name? Is it Daniel Hardy?
Yeah.
Yes.
So we still have him and Austin Booker. They talked about him wanting to gain weight.
Yeah.
Dennis Allen and Ben Johnson talked about him wanting to put on weight. And then,
I
of
think
course,
they need to be stouter against the run.
Dominique Robinson is the other guy who's not quite the larger tight end. He does have decent size, but he was a wide receiver. I wonder how much of it's just like puffed up. My cousin Danny played in the NFL. He was a Notre Dame. He was at Notre Dame and played at St. Patrick's High School in Chicago. And he got drafted by the Bengals, I want to say. He was drafted by the Bengals. Dan Santucci. He played I saw him. I mean, when he was drafted, he was 300 pounds. He was a defensive tackle at St. Patrick's High School. He went to Notre Dame. They made him into a center, offensive lineman. He got drafted by the Bengals as a center, and he was like 6'5", 300. And then, of course, when I go to family reunions and stuff, I see him. He's like 180 pounds now. It's like a lot of puffery. Like those guys get all puffed up. And then once they, leave the world of football, they're back to like a normal size, So I'm wondering how much if even Dominique Robinson makes the team this year, I think him and guys like Zach Pickens.
He's got a long shot, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. You guys think guys like Zach Pickens, Dominique, who are the guys that are in trouble?
I think Pickens is definitely in trouble.
I think Pickens is in trouble, but I think this coaching change defensively is the best thing that could have happened to him.
Probably.
Because I think this scheme is going to be different. They're not going to play him out of position like Flus did. He was playing the one tech, and that did not suit him at all. No. He was much more of a 3 tech, and they just happened to have Dexter, so they couldn't really get him time there. They played him out of position, didn't work out. I think this is going to be a better spot for him with Dennis Allen. I think if he is going to work out, we're going to find out now more so than we did before. I do still think he's on the fence, though. I agree with you guys there. I think Dom Rob is done. I don't think there's any chance he makes this roster. I just don't see it. I don't think there's anything about him that he's ever done that, to me, it warrants that, especially considering the fact they've brought in more competition now around him. Dio Adengwa is a far better player than he is. So I just think I don't see a scenario where
we didn't bring back Darrell Taylor. Was that the guy last year?
No.
I think it was this.
Taylor
No, he was. I remember when there was one game where he had like a strip sack fumble, and then he's like walking away while the play was over, like walking. Like it's like a car exploding in the background before he's walking off in a movie. You know, I liken that scene to that. But that guy, he was able to generate some pressure, but I don't think they thought he was a fit for the system. But
he had like a great first couple weeks. In the defense, he had, he's real impactful, had some great pressures, and had a couple sacks, like you said. And then after that, he didn't really do much. So I just feel like they,
And I want to before we get out of here, Montez Sweat, is he really all that great?
He can be. Tim, you're muted. He can
Sorry,
be. The
I don't think he was healthy at all last year. I
Yeah.
think that was what the issue was with him. He's not an Aiden Hutchinson. He's not a TJ Watt. He's not one of those guys, but he is a good number 2 option.
Yeah, he's getting
I think I don't even want to say 2. I think he's a good number 1 option, but he's not going to be a 15 to 18 sack a year guy. He's going to be that 10 to 12 range.
You can't.
You got to have a compliment for him to have a ton of success.
I think he's very capable of being a very good player. I think he's that next tier down, like you talked about, Tim. I mean, it's no coincidence that when he first came over to the Bears, he had 6 sacks, like off the bat in his first 8 games. He's a good player. He can get the job done. He has that kind of potential. I do think he had some issues with injuries last year. Yes, I do think that you have to have some more around him for your defense to have the pass rush production you want it to. He's not going to give you like single-handedly production like Trey Hendrickson has done for the Bengals, for instance, for several years now. They rely on him as a pass rusher to get anything going for them. That will not happen with the Bears. If the Bears have to rely on Montez Sweat to get pressure like that, they're not going to get pressure. So, again, I think they need more around him. I think it's a good thing that they've got more depth there. Now, there are a couple questions in here I want to get to. So, let's jump into him real quick too. But again, I agree with you. Yes. I think he can be a really good player. We'll have to wait and see. But I think he's going to be a good fit in this defense too. So there are a couple questions. Let me run back and get to these here. There was a point, if I can find it here too, from Minister Charles, and it was a really nice comment from you here. Where did it go now? I can't find it. He said that. Oh, I just found it. He said, eating catfish and watching you guys is a perfect Friday thing. So we really appreciate that, Minister Charles. It means a lot for you to be here with us and enjoy your catfish and enjoy our podcast.
Minister Charles, I'm assuming you're an actual minister based on your name. Jeff and I's dad is a pastor, a Wesleyan pastor. So, yep.
Nice.
So there's here's a couple of questions if I can. Here's one.
Do you guys still attend service with your dad?
I live 2,500 miles away.
You're far away, right. Yeah. Good sermons on the weekend from Dad.
My dad is a very in-depth individual,
yes.
And his sermons are, let's just say, they're outside the box. He will go for he gets on things that people don't necessarily think about all the time.
Yeah, that's great.
I think that's what's unique about him. Yeah,
excellent.
So let's see here. There's a couple really good ones in here. I got to find them now. Okay, here's one from Howie. This is a little bit I'm going to disagree a little bit with what you say, Howie. He wants to know if Poles receives from free agency a D or an F for his grade. And I don't know how you could say it's that bad. I mean, he traded for Joe Tooney and Jonah Jackson. He helped solidify his offensive line. He signed Drew Dahlman. I think he had a pretty good free agency period. He signed a couple guys that can play on the offense who can give you some return value as well, and Zacchaeus and Duvernay. Yep. So I mean,
A for effort.
Yeah, I thought he did a pretty good job in free agency, and we can't really comment and say I do like the draft so far. I've said that already, but we can't really say whether it was a great draft or not for another couple years, 2-3 years.
Yep.
But I thought it looked pretty good so far. I mean, I can't hate on it too much. If you ask me what I get, you said A for effort, Tooch. I would say if I had to give an overall grade for free agency, I'd give it a B+. Because they did address their needs. I'm a little skeptical about whether Jonah Jackson can get back to his level of play in Detroit. That's the one question mark. But obviously, Ben Johnson has faith that he can.
I was going to say, it doesn't matter what we think about that. It doesn't matter what Ryan Poles felt about it. That was a move that Ben Johnson clearly wanted them to make. And he had faith that he was going to be a great right guard because he squashed the center rumors right away before they signed Dahlman and just said, he is an elite guard, and that is where he's going to be. So, we'll see what happens.
There's one more question in here from Cliff I almost forgot about, but J2K says he's going to keep my receipt from something. J2K, I don't know what receipt you're talking about. You're going to remind me because this is a few minutes ago now. So, remind me what receipt you're keeping from me. But Cliff had a question about if there was any Doital says that, or Duital, I'm sorry.
Do it all 36. Do it all?
Pronounce it, yeah. He says that Montez had shin and ankle issues last year, which obviously any kind of leg issue for a pass rusher is going to be a problem. Anybody who's had any kind of ankle issues anyways knows how difficult it is to run and even just cut or move. Like you just moving around on your ankle is very difficult when it's injured, when it's ankle sprain, anything like that can be very painful and difficult.
When you could see he was given everything he had, he just didn't have it last year. You could tell he didn't have that first step quickness or anything, but he played through it anyway. That guy never said a bad thing. Yeah. He just played through the whole season, even with all the garbage that was going on. So I love Montez, and I hope that he takes another step this year and gets back to his, 12 sack performance from 2 years ago. So, but by the way, he did that with he had 6 with 2 different teams. Yeah, that was impressive.
Yep. And that, the team was kind of checked out on Eberflus last year. So I'm willing to give Montez a sweat. And I think with Odengbo opposite him, I think he's going to get a lot more.
Yes.
A lot more one-on-ones.
Yes.
There's a couple Ian Wheeler make an impact this season from Stew Dogs?
I think he does. If he's healthy. If he's healthy, I think he does. That's the main question mark. If he comes back, he's healthy, he's practicing in training camp. I think he does have some kind of role. He's just too fast. He's too fast. He's too dynamic. He looked good in the preseason. Again, it's the preseason, but he looked good when he was on the field last year. He was impressive in training camp.
The injury took him out. I think it was a real shame. We really could have found out more about this player.
I think you're right, Jeff, but I don't know that he's going to be healthy like that this season. I mean, that's a full year injury to get even close to 100%. Yep. And with a running back, why rush him back out there? He hasn't had any. He's an undrafted free agent. He's not going to sign elsewhere right now, even if you cut him. So
we opened ourselves up for some shots here, guys.
Did we?
Right.
I guess.
Yeah.
Look, the Bears had no choice. Ryan Poles had no choice. They had to rebuild the offensive line. The offensive line last year was one of the biggest detriments to the team. The reason why we only won 5 games, there's that famous shot of all the players laying on the ground on one play, while Caleb was rolling to his left. You see all 5 linemen are like on the ground on their side, one play. So, I mean, he had to rebuild the offensive line. The questions that remain is like, is it possible to rebuild an offensive line in the season and get it rolling, in one off season? We'll find out. I think these guys are all professionals, so I would say yes.
And Howie, you do make a good point. I mean, Jackson hasn't played 13 games in any season the last 3 years. 13 games is still pretty good, though, out of 17. I mean, you don't want your guys missing time at all. I mean, Tevin Jenkins missed a ton of time. We know that. But I think the depth is better now than it has been in the last several years, to where I'm not quite as worried about if they have an injury on the interior as I have been in the past. It's still not perfect by any stretch. I mean, you still want to see them improve there, but I do like that they brought in new guys in the interior for depth. I really like the Luke Newman pick in the 6th round. I think he's a nice little developmental piece.
Yes.
Who can be a pretty good player. So
he might make the roster as, the backup.
Wouldn't shock me.
Yep.
Backup center even maybe.
Yep.
I think he's got
backup guard. Yep.
So, I mean, I think it's going to come down to whether or not Bates is healthy enough to back up at center. And if this kid can play center or not. I mean, maybe the job comes down to one of those 2 guys. It's hard to say.
Bates might be a cut candidate.
That's what I'm saying. He very well could be a cut candidate. It all just depends on his health. So, and there's one more question in here from Cliff that I think was a good question. I want to address it real quick. He asked if there was any standouts from training camp today. I saw a couple clips. We showed you guys a clip earlier about Trapillo. He looked
sounds like Trapillo was the guy. Yeah,
Manungai had a pretty good camp, I think, or a pretty good day too. I think he looked good in drills. He's got really good.
That little son of a gun, man. I like this player.
He's my height. He's 5'8". That's like a guy. 250-pound me running around.
It's like he ran a 4.67 or something for a guy who ran that speed.
That doesn't matter.
My point was that he's moving well in practice today, like in the drill work, the way he's bouncing, his cutback ability, his ability to go side to side is good. He's got good agility. He's got good quickness. So
he's tough
for a guy that moves that speed. You wouldn't know it on the field. And some guys just don't test well. It's just how it is. Some guys just run better on the field.
Estimate ran a 4.7 at the combine last year, and we all were watching him going, we know he's faster than that. That's, it's just some guys just don't run fast in their underwear.
Caleb Johnson on Iowa ran a 4.57. You watch I watched a lot of Iowa games. That dude is freaking fast.
Yeah. He was one of those guys, he was so big, but when he got into the open field, nobody caught him. You know, that's not 4.7 speed. So, I mean, I get it, Tooch, 100%.
Yeah, Monangai, man, he's a little tough son of a gun, man. He in pass pro, man, he will lay into people. Yeah, he's fearless. I love his game. I think he definitely makes the roster and he contributes.
Oh, for sure. I 100% agree. I think he's the number 2 back already.
Yep. And then you can cut ties with DeAndre Swift after this year.
And get Jeremiah Love in the draft.
Get Jeremiah Love and Kyle Monangai. You have 1-2 punch.
Yes. Yes.
Yep. Yeah, I like I said, it's funny how things work sometimes. Yeah, I was just like everybody else, screaming and crying and whining about Travion Henderson going to the Patriots at 38. But Monangai might be a diamond in the rough here for us.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Anyways, guys, we're out of time here. We went about 20 minutes over, so we do appreciate you guys being here for the time you were. And as always, Tooch, we appreciate you filling in for us and being here with us on the show. We appreciate your.
I wish I could have grabbed those press conference stuff. I was like, I was busy at work doing stuff.
All right.
But
I worked like 60 hours this week, Tooch. I get it. Man.
I had a long week myself.
Yeah.
It happens. It is what it is. We had plenty to talk about anyway. So, in any case, it was a good show. And real quick, guys, before we get out of here, a quick reminder as always: please like the video, subscribe to the channel. You can find us all on X or Twitter. I'm at _Jeff Willis. You can find my partner here at Tim Willis 24. You can find Tooch at John Santucci VIP, and you can find our executive producer Aldo Gandia when he is here at Barroom Network. So until next week, guys, and again, a real quick plug to John too. Tooch is on Wednesdays. I think you guys are doing now. Bare Their Souls Wednesday nights.
Wednesday nights.
Every Wednesday, it's a couple hours and it's a really good show. We go through bear stuff, pop culture, everything. So, and I occasionally myself will be on that show myself. So
yeah, it was a great show.
We need to dedicate one night to just pop culture on our show, Jeff. Just music and pop culture.
Yeah,
when it gets low, like when we're getting into the weeds here in the summertime, I think it'll be a good
guys in the chat. Anybody, if you guys have anything you want us to dig into outside of Bears football, either send me a message on Twitter or something like that. Send us an email at Willis Twin Towers Podcast at gmail.com. However you want to do that, we'll try to answer some stuff for you guys and dig into some other stuff as well. So, and yes, Tucci was a great episode last week on Bare Their Souls. I had a ton of fun.
Yeah, we missed you, Tim.
I watched. You guys you guys don't start until like 10 o'clock Eastern time.
Yep.
I'm on Eastern time. I'm up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I ain't doing that. That happened.
7 my time. It was great.
Yeah.
So,
all right, fellas.
We appreciate you guys.
No problem.
We'll see you next week.
Bear down.
Got Bears.
The Willis Twin Towers podcast is a Barroom Network production. Jeff and Tim Willis are the co-hosts and co-producers. Aldo Gandia is executive producer. Music is licensed from Pond 5. Any copyrighted material used was done under the Fair Use Doctrine for commentary, criticism, and informative purposes. All of our programming is available in audio-only format by subscribing to the Barroom Network wherever you download podcasts. Videos are archived on YouTube.